Hi everybody, today we're looking at a JUND deck that wants to take advantage of Ziatora's Envoy and some of the other JUND cards that don't see quite as much play anymore. Starting off on the low end, we've got 4 copies of Cult Conscript. I wanted a cheap creature that could keep coming back from the graveyard, and this fit the bill nicely. A nice ability on this card is that you can return it to the battlefield at any time, as long as you meet that condition of having a non-skeleton creature dying under your control. So you can even do that on your opponent's turn at instant speed. So the Cult Conscript goes very well with the Tenacious Underdog, who's also got a couple of copies in here. And then altogether, those interact nicely with the Willow Geist. If the Willow Geist is down on turn 1, then the hope is that we can sort of slowly build it up and at least have something to play with from the beginning. Otherwise, if we draw it in the late game and we've got our Cult Conscript, Tenacious Underdog, Shenanigans going, the idea is that even though it's a 1-cost creature that we're drawing late, we can still build it up and gain a bit of life to stay in the game. We've got a couple of copies of Infernal Grasp, 2 copies of Reckoner's Bargain, which is sort of the poor man's substitute for Deadly Dispute right now. Nice bonus on it is that we can gain life equal to the sacrificed permanence value, and then draw 2 cards, but you still don't get that mana boost that Deadly Dispute used to give you. We're also looking at 2 copies of Tear Asunder. Tear Asunder's from Dominaria United. It lets us exile an artifact or enchantment, or if we kick it, exile anything we want to. Up next, Bloodtithe Harvester, a nice 4 of in here. A couple of copies of Meathook Massacre, mostly to capitalize on all of the things that should be coming and going from the graveyard all the time. Next up, I wanted to try a few copies of Braids' Frightful Return. Now, we've all seen Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which is in here, but I wanted to give this a chance in a deck that was set up to take advantage of maybe sacrificing a creature or 2 and getting stuff back out of the graveyard. Overall, it didn't prove too useful. It's probably better in a deck that is more purposefully built around the card. When you want to compare power levels, when you look at Braids' Frightful Return and Fable of the Mirror Breaker, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, Fable of the Mirror Breaker is definitely the stronger card at that mana slot. So we're going to give it a try in here. We've also got 1 copy of Riveteers Ascendancy. I didn't want to run into a situation where we were stuck with many copies of these and no creatures to get back from the graveyard, so again, this is more of an experimental card. Over here in the 4-drop slot, we're looking at Ziatora's Envoy, which is a 4 of in here. I like this creature a whole lot. It's a great way to get some value off the top of our deck when we attack. And if we draw it late game and we really need to come back, it's kind of similar to Sarah Paragon or Tamiyo in that it'll usually bring something else with it if it gets to hit for the full 5. Everything else in here except for Ziatora itself is 5 mana cost or less. Looking at the rest of the 4-drops, you can see there's some experimental cards in here that I wanted to try out. We've got Forge Boss, which does 2 damage to our opponents every time one thing gets sacrificed on our turn. We've got Jaxis the Troublemaker, who should be able to copy some of our creatures similar to the final mode of Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Henrika Domnathi, kind of a flexible creature that lets us do a lot of different things and then gives us a lifelinky body at the end. And then Hidetsugu Devouring Chaos. Our deck's not built specifically to take advantage of it, but it does have a sacrifice trigger, so I thought it might pair nicely with the Riveteers Ascendancy and the Willow Geist. Looking up at the top, we've got Ziatora the Incinerator, a nice beefy 6/6 dragon that's another sacrifice outlet for us and will give us some treasures in a pinch. I'm going to stick with you for some commentary on these games in the ranked standard ladder, but as always, thanks very much for watching, and I'll talk to you in a second. Hello, we're taking the Riveteers out for a spin with a deck loosely based around sacrifice effects, getting things back, Ziatora the Incinerator throwing things at the opponent's face. We are facing Fantastic Beast. Couple of sets behind on the cosmetics, but you know, you like what you like. We'll lay down the Bloodtithe Harvester and get things going on our side. Get in for 3. Fable. Opponent looking to produce all of the colors of mana. Ziatora's Envoy, one of the cards that I like best in the Riveteers. As you can see, great on 4 mana. Really threatening. Also able to hastily get in there and rebuild your board, should you get hit with some removal. I have a feeling we're going to get hit with a Joda or some such. Nope, it is a dragon. We draw a Grasp right on time, meaning we don't have to sacrifice our Bloodtithe Harvester. Doesn't look like we can necessarily get in for that last point of damage, but we'll see what we draw here. Our opponent gingerly touching their treasures. Lightning Strike on the Harvester. That does mean the Envoy will get to hit, and we'll get a look at the top. Nothing but a land, unfortunately. And that should wrap it up. Yeah, that Envoy is just a lot of pressure. Good game. Hello, hello, and welcome back. We've created this deck as an excuse to play Ziatora's Envoy. Oh, looks like we're up against that mono-blue monstrosity here. Well, options are to play the Geist now or get our colors going. Geist not too threatening at the moment. I may play both the Conscript and the Geist this turn. We're sticking on 1, so opponent has Consider, Fading Hope, one of those. Mono blue looking to fill their graveyard with instants and sorceries to get a cheap Tolarian Terror. And then protect it with Spell Snare, things that return creatures to your own hand. Yeah, I was going to say, opponent offering the trade, but they never offer the trade in this deck. There's like 8 to 10 creatures in there. Lightning Strike on our Geist. Opponent hits us for 4 with the Aberration. We draw a land. Well, we will attack first, as is usually the smart thing to do. Attempt to Ziatora's Envoy on 4. It has been made to disappear. There's the Terror. We will attempt to grasp it. There's a high density of counterspells and bounce in these decks. So opponent just negating that with a return to the hand. So we will decline the ward in that case, countering our own spell and saving us a couple of life. Just considering whether or not to sacrifice the Conscript. We get 2 damage and 3 treasures, which will help us Meathook on the following turn if we need to. However, there's so much bounce in those decks as well that, I don't know, didn't feel comfortable doing it. Alright, our first attempt at a Meathook for 5. Wow, it actually landed. That's amazing. Alright, well suddenly we are back in this game. Not knowing about any flash creatures, I think we're safe to get in for 1. Alright, we have Harvester and Conscript. Let's attempt to attack with Ziatora first. Returns it to our hand. Keep the pressure up. We're going to lay both the Harvester and this other Conscript rather than try to run Ziatora back into a counterspell. Like a make disappear, something like that. We really want to make them spend their cards on our stuff. Neat little trick there with the Conscript. And that should do it. Good game. Let's try another game with this Ziatora's Envoy deck. This hand looks keepable enough. We'll play the tap land on turn 1, and then be set up pretty well for the next couple of turns. Forge Boss on the draw. We'll get Tenacious Underdog down. Underdog gets cut down there. I was going to say, Forge Boss, kind of an interesting creature I wanted to try out. The aim is we'll probably be sacrificing a few creatures, either from our own Blitz abilities or from some of the other abilities that just happen to be in here. So I wanted to see, if the body made sense at that mana cost and if the extra damage was worth it. Opponent's going to extract some truth from us. Take one of the Envoys. Well, since we don't have a 3-drop, let's go ahead and play the Ziatora's Proving Ground. Then next turn we can either Envoy, Forge Boss, or Underdog. Opponent has a Tenacious one of their own. Let's attempt to get the Envoy out. We've got a high upside if that ends up living. Can't be cut down. But it certainly can be Infernal Grasped. That's a shame. Let's try the Forge Boss out here. If it survives, we can attempt to Underdog next turn and see how that little interaction plays out. Opponent with the second Infernal Grasp. I've seen more opponents running the Roadside Reliquary. Not a bad choice in this environment, to be honest. Let's try to get in with that underdog. Opponent tries to cut it down, so let's use our card draw spell to see if we can get some extra backup here. We're going to need something to contest this underdog on the other side. It'll bring us a little low, but it might be worth it for the extra card. Let's try to blitz this underdog and get in for 3. Bloodtithe Harvester. We'll create a blood token. We'll play the Cult Conscript. Opponent removes our Harvester, and we'll draw Ziatora's Envoy. Well, we can attempt to blitz the Envoy and get some extra value out of the deck. But since we're also running kind of low on life... Let's blitz the Envoy. We can always play the Geist as a backup blocker and leave up Infernal Grasp. We'll also leave the Conscript back. I'm realizing just how low our life total is. And we may not play that card. That's unfortunate. Okay, let's lay the Geist down. We'll at least get 1 life if it decides to die. And assuming we don't need to remove anything too troublesome, we can blood token away this land. Another land from the opponent. Glad we blocked there. That would have not been fun. See if our opponent blocks here. No, they will drop to 5. We draw Hidetsugu. But before the end of the turn, we'll also bring back the Conscript and get another counter on this Geist. Opponent with a Meathook Massacre for 3. Well, at least we gain a little life from the Willow Geist. Well, since we can't afford to keep bringing back that underdog anymore. We'll get in with the Conscript. Play Hidetsugu. +1 Bloodtithe Harvester. Get a blood token. Pass the turn back. Sacrifices the Reliquary to draw 1 card, since they have just an enchantment. 2 cards. Alright, they're going to try and cut down the Harvester. That gains them a life and puts them up to 6. That's still lethal for us, unless they've got something else hiding in there. And a Grasp on Hide. Well, I would like them to lose the 2 life here. Alright, so they are at 5, meaning we can blitz our underdog back and take them out. Let's just take a peek at what we have. Alright, just to make sure I've got the math correct on this, we'll pay 2 life. It'll come out, and we will kill them before the Meathook Massacre triggers. Alright, that was a close one. Very good game. Alright, welcome back. So to wrap up this experience a little bit, you can see we really concentrated on Ziatora's Envoy here. Some themes I'd like to explore in the future are going a full 4 on the Riveteers Ascendancy and just putting a lot more creatures into the deck. I kind of built it with a bit more variety in mind, so we've got lots of one-ofs to kind of try out. I think if I had to do this again, I would cut out the Braids Frightful Return. It doesn't quite work in a deck like this. I was aiming for kind of a light sacrifice theme in here. But I did finally find a decent place for the Willow Geist in Standard. Between the Cult Conscript and the Tenacious Underdog, that's actually not a bad number of things to keep coming back and actually put some counters on the Geist. So even if you do draw it late, you've got enough mana to keep bringing back the Underdog or the Conscript and get some more counters on it. I would probably also take out the Forge Boss and Hidetsugu. While they were decent-sized bodies, they didn't have too much of an impact on the game, and our deck's not really constructed to take advantage of Hidetsugu already, so he was mostly in there as a sacrifice outlet. Now, if you enjoy the video, let me know by giving it a like and a subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.